Tonight's story begins with suspicion of infidelity, a boyfriend who smiles too easily at someone else. But beneath the jealousy lies something much darker, a government that rebuilds people into perfect lovers, and a girl who betrays her best friend to keep him forever. What she buys is not love, but a hollow echo that remembers. This isn't romance anymore. This is reconstruction horror. Welcome to Nightmare Proof, where true horror comes alive. Here, you'll hear real stories of the strange, the disturbing, and the unexplainable. Turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to face the darkness. I thought my boyfriend was cheating on me, but it was so much worse. I lay awake. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Birds were singing. I pressed my pillow over my face. "Morning, babe," I mumbled into lavender-scented sheets. 3 days since I caught him kissing Kai. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Jet groaned into his pillows in response, a streak of annoyance in his tone. Part of me wondered if he'd have that tone if Kai were in his arms. I squeezed my eyes shut, suffocating myself inside lavender until I was choking on it. I couldn't control my voice. I couldn't control the sting in my eyes or the lump in my throat. Fuck. I pressed harder until I was sure. If I continued to apply pressure, I would lose consciousness. It wasn't anger I was feeling. If I was angry, I would throw the pillow at the wall. No, I wasn't angry. I was aware. I was gripping the pillow, my fingernails scrunched up in its material. I was curious. "Jet," I said again, unable to stop my tone hardening. I sensed movement before his warm arms found my waist, his lips brushing my shoulder in a kiss. He sighed, deep and heavy. Maybe it was an "I don't love you anymore" sigh. My mind drifted back to the day before. The pool party. I wasn't ashamed of showing him off to all my friends. I'd left Jet to mingle with the crowd, and when I returned, 2 strawberry martinis in hand, it was just in time to see him making out with Kai Denver. The two of them swayed to the beat, bathed in neon light, their hands finding each other slowly, hesitantly, as I watched. I tried to push it out of my head, to snap back to the present, but the memory festered like curdled milk. Kai grabbed Jet's shirt collar and pulled him closer. They stood out in the crowd, Jet's thick brown hair clashing with Kai's sandy blonde. Kai's hands cupped his cheeks, eyes half-lidded, lips cracking into a teasing smile. His lips found my boyfriend's in a very slow, very real kiss, which, to my confusion, deepened. The two of them were lost in the crowd, in each other. I was sure if I hadn't made my presence known with a sharp cough, the two would have disappeared upstairs. They sprang apart the moment they saw me. Jet turned with a wide smile, a slow, spreading blush blossoming across his cheeks. Kai was slower. His hands lingered, deliberately, still clutching my boyfriend's shirt collar, even with his own girlfriend standing just a few feet away. Kai started it, I kept telling myself. But I couldn't deny Jet's grin, the way he leaned in again, hungry, almost desperate, his fingers threading, entangled in sandy blonde curls. "Stop!" I exhaled into my pillow, trying to banish the image of the two of them wrapped around each other, moving in sync, twin smiles and sparkling eyes, like the two of them fit. Jet had looked at me like that, right? Yes, of course he had. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. "Jet," I said, louder, exhaling into my pillow. "It's 4 a.m., Isabel." Jet sighed. His body moved against mine, but it felt heavy, wrong, his legs tangled around me, clammy with sweat. But we didn't have sex. Maybe he was thinking about Kai. Maybe he'd gotten too excited. "The pool is the perfect temperature. Do you want to stay in bed?" I felt his breath tickle my neck as he rolled onto his side. I could sense the teasing smile curving on his lips. Or go for a dip? There's nothing worse than the feeling of doubt in the ones you love, the ones you give yourself to, in sickness and in health, till death do us part, always and forever. I had already rehearsed my wedding speech, and I had yet to be proposed to. But I knew it was coming. We had been dating for almost 2 years. He was my best friend, my soulmate. We'd known each other since we were kids, so it was inevitable, right? High school sweethearts. We bought our own house at 23, a cute suburban home with a white picket fence. Our very own American dream. But why? I smothered the bad thoughts, rolled over, and kissed him. He kissed back, half asleep, eyes still shut, smiling. Like he loved me. Like he wasn't thinking about a boy. I noticed he was slow, his hands barely cradling my face. He kissed Kai with confidence, like he was used to him, like he knew his face, every crease in his jaw, lips that somehow knew every part of him. He kissed Kai with a smile I had never seen before. I waited for him to cup my cheeks, to hold me like I mattered. Jet just let out a deep exhale and buried his head in the pillow. After a full minute of staring at the clock on the wall, drowning in what-ifs, I finally sat up. Let's go out. I slipped out of bed, my legs unsteady, like I was walking on air. I dressed quickly, dragged a comb through my hair, and grabbed my phone. 4:30. I could wait an hour. When Jet didn't respond, still wrapped in blankets, I dove into our closet and grabbed a dress. Get up, I said, tossing clothes onto the bed and ignoring his groan of protest. The more awake and alert I was, the darker my thoughts grew. He was smiling in his sleep. I thought it was because of me. When there was no movement from our bed, I pulled off my sock and threw it at him. In pure Jet fashion, he buried his head in his arms. "Did you just throw a sock at me?" he mumbled. I ignored him. "Come on, it's a beautiful day." I yanked open the curtains, flooding the room with light. The sky was a pre-dawn crystalline blue, the birds were singing their annoying fucking songs, and my boyfriend was thinking about a boy. When he didn't respond, again, I grew impatient, grabbing my jacket and flinging it on. "Jet, get up!" He sprang up, diving out of bed. "Sorry." I handed him clean clothes. He dressed quickly, throwing on a shirt and stumbling into his pants. Jet's style was my style. I chose all his clothes, his shoes, even his hairstylist. It was summer, so for him, I went with a loose tee and cargo shorts. I couldn't resist running my fingers through his hair, stretching up onto my toes to peck him on the cheek. He stood over me at 6 foot something, effortlessly flawless. Jet's smile was sleepy but cautious. His eyes followed mine, tawny brown, just the way I liked them. But it wasn't the way he looked at Kai. There was no real warmth, no spark. Instead of wrapping around me, his arms stayed at his sides. He slowly inclined his head, reminding me of when we were kids, and he would use the puppy dog eyes to swindle candy from me. "Where are we going?" I handed him his shoes, and he took them, uncertainly. "Just out." Jet followed me all the way downstairs and straight out the door into the already sweltering heat. I was glad I was wearing a dress. He slid into my car and immediately switched on the radio. "Isabel, it's 4 a.m. I shrugged, starting up the car. It's a nice day. The car ride was undeniably tense. Jet stared out the window, watching early morning traffic blur past. His dark brown hair set alight by orange streaks of sunrise bleeding through the glass. He was traditionally handsome, sculpted jawline, perfect eyes, cheekbones to die for. I was lucky to have scored someone like Jet. Somehow, I knew he was thinking about Kai, about their kiss, about how to break it to me gently. "I love someone else, Isabel." His big brown eyes were screaming, which could only mean one thing. I was sweating. My thighs clung to the leather seats. My breath was stuck in my throat. Fuck. I found my voice, the words that had been suffocating me, when Jet switched off the radio and turned to me like he knew I was drowning, choking on the words tangled on my tongue. "Jet," I said, keeping my gaze on the road. "Do you remember Adam?" Jet frowned. "Adam?" It had been 1,350 days since I lost my best friend. When I was 18, I craved perfection in a partner. I had grown up at the dawn of evolving technology. the ability to transform yourself into something more. Dad died when I was 5, and Mom brought home Leo the next day, and they had been together ever since. Their relationship made me believe in true perfection, the perfect human for me. I wanted the perfect jawline, the perfect hair. It didn't end with looks. I wanted a personality that shined. I didn't expect them to laugh at my jokes. I wanted them to laugh at their own, at themselves. But I also wanted them to be pretentious and a little rude. I wanted a guy who would gladly step on me. Someone ditzy and intelligent. I was yet to find him. Don't even get me started on my high school standards. I came to realize my perfect boy was, in fact, my best friend. Adam, the boy next door. The boy who didn't know I existed, romantically, at least. I had known Adam since we were little kids, pulling faces at each other through our windows. The problem was, our parents hated each other. Adam's mom made the mistake of asking if Leo was Mom's real boyfriend, so I was given strict orders to stay away. But he kept appearing at his window. At first, I was shy, hiding behind my curtains while Adam played peekaboo with his. I liked the twinkle in his eye, the way he giggled when I told him to go away. I would draw my curtains and peek through, which made him laugh. As we grew up, I found myself edging closer to my bedroom window, finding comfort in his presence. At school, we were strangers. Adam hung out with gross boys who blew boogers out of their nose. One night after dinner, I scribbled, "Do you want to play?" on my notepad, and he surprised me with a grin. Yes! We started swapping notes and talking for hours each night after school. I started opening my window, leaning out to chat with him. One evening, he introduced me to his entire stuffed animal collection, so of course, I had to introduce him to mine. Before long, Adam grew brave. He showed up at our front door, a mess of brown curls, freckles, and scarlet cheeks. When Mom tried to shoo him away, he held up a crumpled scrap of paper, a capitalized plea in red crayon. "Please, please, can I play with Izzy?" When Mom didn't respond, he quickly added, "You look very pretty, Mrs. Kane." Mom sighed and rolled her eyes, but she was fighting a smirk. "I'm flattered, Adam." Adam's eyes lit up. He grinned, jumping up and down. "So, Izzy can play?" "Do what you want," she grumbled, turning away from us. "And tell your mother to learn some manners, young man." When Mom slammed the door on us, Adam turned to me, giggling. His smile was contagious. We grew up together, and my stomach started to flutter whenever he smiled. Puberty slammed into me. I got my first period, and boys suddenly didn't seem that gross anymore. I started to feel breathless, and maybe a little nauseous, when we lay on the grass, watching clouds. We were 14 when Adam had a growth spurt. His freckles became more prominent, which I hated, but he was also getting love letters from girls in our class. I had sweaty palms and flushed cheeks, and I couldn't understand why talking to Adam had become so much harder. I got tongue-tied and tripped over my words, my face burning. I had a crush, a gut-churning, butterfly-inducing, world-ending crush on the boy next door. That realization hit when we were 16, after I had already been on my fair share of dates. But none of them were Adam, who was that perfection I craved. I didn't want a boy like him. I wanted him. One night, I was watching Adam change through my window. I didn't even realize I was peeking. It was a mistake, that's what I told myself. I totally didn't mean to see him. When he looked directly at me, I ducked, busted. I tried to play it cool, jumping to my feet and saying, "Oh, I dropped my hairbrush." He was already grinning, mouthing, "Nice try." I pretended not to see another shadow behind him, who moved closer, wrapping their arms around his neck, making him laugh. The two of them tumbled onto his bed. Adam dived to his feet and drew the curtains before I could see anything. I left it to my imagination, aware of prickling heat rising in my cheeks. I pulled my own curtains shut, my heart pounding, my stomach twisting. The boy next door was taken. On his 20th birthday, he had a party, but nobody came. While half of our year was celebrating graduation, others were numb with terror. Instead, the two of us ate cake and drank beers and watched clouds like we were kids again, like we could hold onto our youth in one perfect afternoon. I sat on the edge of his pool, dangling my feet in crystal water, lapping over my toes. I'd received my letter the day before. I let it sit in my bedroom for 2 hours while I paced up and down the stairs, then heaved up my breakfast. Eventually, when I couldn't take it anymore, when my skin was crawling, I tore it open, read a single word, and broke into Mom's wine cabinet, polishing off 3 bottles. I didn't hold the same hope for the boy next door. Adam lounged on a pool float, head bowed, a beer pressed to his lips, that exact same envelope crumpled in his trembling hands. He was already drunk, slightly off kilter. I pretended not to see the self-inflicted scar cutting through his eye. The last thing Adam wanted to be was perfect. "What do you think it says, Izzy?" he said, slurring a little. I didn't look up from the surface of the pool, watching the last streaks of sunlight dance across the glittering blue as the sky faded into diffused twilight. The boy next door was taken, and my chest ached. It was getting harder to breathe around him, like my lungs were starved of oxygen. If this was what falling in love was, I didn't want it. It was agonizing, cruel. It was wrong to feel like this about some stupid boy. I wanted perfect, and Adam wasn't. So, why was I swallowing razor blades when I was with him? A never-ending push and pull between us. Adam was a virus burning through my blood, intoxicating my thoughts with only him, telling him my feelings would be selfish, telling him would ruin what we had, but keeping my feelings from him was ripping my heart to shreds. "Just open it," I said, kicking my legs. He did, tearing into it. I ducked my head, squeezing my eyes shut. Adam didn't speak for a long time. It was long enough for me to risk glancing under my lashes. Something in my gut flipped. He was trying so hard to hide it, but I could see the way his jaw clenched, the glassiness in his eyes. Crying, but not just crying. I saw the lump in his throat, the curl of his lip that was trying to be angry. He wasn't angry. Adam was fucking terrified. Adam didn't have to say it. I already knew what it said. I watched him stare down at his fate before he scoffed, screwed it up, and dumped the letter in the water. "Rejected," he said with a grin, wading to the side of the pool and pulling himself out. He was shaking, yet still wearing that plastic smile. "I guess I'm in the clear." "Yeah," I said, hating myself for sounding uninterested, uncaring, when in reality, I think we were both fracturing. I was ashamed of how my gaze lingered where it shouldn't, on the sculpted muscles of his back, the way wet strands of hair stuck to his forehead and fell into light green eyes. There was no way Adam McIntyre had been rejected. But still, I nodded and smiled, ignoring the way he kept swiping at raw eyes, muttering, "I think I'm allergic to something in the pool." "I'm going to grab another beer," Adam said, still putting on a show, still hiding behind a facade he knew I could see right through. He grabbed his phone from the patio, frowning at the screen. "Want one?" I saluted him with my soda. "I'm good." There was one thing Adam was terrible at: lying. He fidgeted on his feet, unable to meet my eyes. When I heard the wet slap of his footsteps disappear inside the house, I slipped into the water and fished out the letter. It was barely legible, the ink already bleeding onto my hands. But all I really needed to see was the beginning, for the attention of Mr. Adam McIntyre. "Congratulations! You have been selected as a suitable candidate for Conversion Class B as part of AMOR, Artificial Matchmaking and Optimization Registry. Following biometric, psychological, and appearance evaluations, you have been awarded a compatibility score of 9 Class Beta. Please report to your local AMOR processing center by 0900 hours on Monday, June 24th for reconstruction. Failure to do so will have consequences. Your family will be compensated." You are strictly forbidden to engage in the following henceforth before reconstruction: smoking, drug use, overeating, sexual activity. Do not self-inflict injuries on your body. This includes brain-altering substances. These will not pardon you. We thank you for your contribution to a more unified future. The Central Placement Authority, Office of Social Alignment and Trust. Unity, Mr. McIntyre, begins with you. By the time I was finished skimming the letter, my heart was in my throat. I found Adam in his parents' basement, eyes squeezed shut, a knife to the curve of his throat. But he wasn't stupid. The letter was very clear. I couldn't do anything but wrap my arms around him. He dropped the knife, letting it hit the floor. Go away. Adam's voice was shaky, a warning, but I was used to his mood swings. I didn't let go, clinging to him. At first, he was stiff, arms hanging useless at his sides. Then, slowly, something in him broke. He leaned into me, burying his face in my shoulder. Bit by bit, the boy next door began to unravel. Fuck, he whispered, his words splintering into a sob. I held him as he shattered, sobbing and screaming, until his cries collapsed into broken whimpers. He clung to me like I was an anchor, and I felt helpless, hopeless that I couldn't help him. I'm supposed to go to fucking college, and this. I'm not going. Do you hear me? I'm not letting them do this to me. His laugh caught in his throat. Tears soaked my shoulder, warm, somehow comforting, and so fucking human, I almost let myself break too. I'll get the fuck out of here, he whispered, his lips brushing my ear. An involuntary shiver ran down my spine. I've heard of what they do in those places. I've seen the videos, and your mom's boyfriend. He trailed off, but I knew what he was going to say. I heard kids managed to escape. Adam's breath was warm. There's a European rebel group fighting for us, and if we can somehow get into Canada. Adam, I spoke softly. Let's not talk about it tonight. I allowed myself to smile. It's your birthday! When he finally sank to the floor, curling his knees to his chest, I sank down with him. He lit a cigarette with a sigh. I rested my head on his. We sat in peaceful silence. I liked the feeling of his head resting in the crook of my shoulder. So, he murmured, taking a drag of the cigarette. What was your score? I ignored his question for a moment, focusing on the ignition of orange between his fingers. Are you even inhaling that? He groaned, tipping his head back. His gaze strayed on the ceiling. I'm trying to. Adam passed me the cigarette, and I took a slow, uncertain pull. I immediately choked, coughing up smoke. Oh God! I waggled my tongue, the sticky taste of nicotine glued to my mouth. I handed it back, and he chuckled. We passed it back and forth for a while, neither of us inhaling, both of us faking it. After all, that's what we did with candy cigarettes as kids. Growing up sucks. I scored an 8, I said to his earlier question. His expression crumpled, smile fading. Sounds like they don't find you attractive. I shoved him playfully, but he was right. I was assessed, as average, at an 8. According to my letter, my intelligence and nose brought me down from an 8.5. I silently thanked my mother and father's average genes. But that didn't stop the self-hatred, the constant need to make myself desirable. Jay was accepted too, Adam said softly, and my heart fluttered. He avoided my gaze. I'm not letting them do this to him. So, over the next few weeks, he planned. On the morning of his summons, Adam crawled through my bedroom window at 6 a.m. He was armed with his father's gun tucked into his belt, a backpack filled with essentials, and dyed black hair poking out from beneath his hooded sweatshirt. Get up, he whispered. When I tried to bury myself in my pillows, he yanked them away and tugged me out of bed. We have an hour until we're meeting Noah, he said hurriedly. So we need to go right now. Pack enough clothes, dump your phone. I sat up, swiping sleep from my eyes. Noah? He nodded, already packing my things into my bag. He's a survivor. Noah is driving us and some others to the border, and then we're getting a boat. He threw my backpack at me. Get dressed. Now. While I tried to process his words, Adam grabbed my laptop. You need to dump this too, he hissed. You can't leave a trail. Adam moved to my drawers, grabbing sanitary towels and spare cash and stuffing them in my backpack. You'll need these. He moved to my sock drawer, pulling out underwear. Oh, and these too. Adam, I said. I had a bad feeling. Operation Move to Canada was doomed to fail. He didn't turn to look at me, grasping fistfuls of my socks. I know it's a long shot, he whispered, but it's mine. I didn't know his plan, but a plan was enough. I was already prepared to follow him. Slipping out of bed, I joined him, snatching my panties out of his hands. His cheeks glowed crimson, but he was smiling. Adam flung up his hands. Sorry. I threw a sock at him, and he retreated with a smirk. Step away from the underwear drawer, I said. Stepping away, he muttered, practically diving into my closet. Adam and I packed everything we could, and I wrote my mom a note only she would read. We dumped our phones in a neighbor's pool and jumped into Adam's car. Jay, his boyfriend, sat in the back. Serena, a gray-eyed girl, also selected, squeezed next to him, blonde curls falling in willowy golden locks in her face. She had a natural kind of beauty, the type that was marketable. Sellable. Jay's glittering smile and sculpted jawline made him irresistible. Adam's charm was what sold him. His eyes were his only flaw. I preferred brown. Serena and Jay were strong 9s for their looks. Adam's personality bumped up my own personal rating to 9.5. I realized, a sick feeling coiling in my gut, that I was among pretty corpses. I was the only average one, the only one allowed to live past 18. I had known about AMOR since I was a kid. Back then, it was a Korean-owned technology company, Morphosis, that was bought by Apple. I remembered the commercials, constant interruptions every 5 minutes, promising perfection through skincare products and, eventually, body modification. Instead of being raised on shows like Bluey, I was repeatedly told that perfection was the only way forward. I remembered the colors invading my screen, pastel pink and light blue. Girls and boys sculpted like mannequins, dressed in traditional black and white, while an AI voiceover repeated the same thing. No flaws, only beauty. Find your one, who you're fated to be with. Be beautiful, be you. Press X for a full consultation. With birth rates rapidly declining and billionaires worrying about future labor shortages, women were encouraged to have children. But according to my mother, there was no support, no financial aid, not even a stable income to raise a child. So women rebelled by refusing to have children, and men retaliated by treating women as the second class. The government responded by punishing both and enforcing a so-called stable future through AMOR. The American government passed a federal law mandating that every 20-year-old who met the beauty percent standard must surrender themselves to reconstruction, ensuring perfect partners to birth perfect children. As I grew up, I started noticing them in public. Flawless men and women on the streets, like living Barbie dolls. I was afraid of them until Dad died, and Mom brought one home. His name was Leo. He was purely a rebound. By the time I reached high school, the naturally attractive kids were already destroying themselves to avoid being selected for reconstruction. I was a freshman when a senior boy jumped off the roof. Acceptance letters still crumpled in his hand. Now my best friend was expected to willingly walk inside a slaughterhouse. Adam was resilient, and that's what I loved about him. He wasn't going to surrender his body, his soul, for someone else's satisfaction. I was surprised that we didn't get pulled over, though Adam was careful. Serena came out of her shell, explaining she had a girlfriend back home who was planning to follow her to Canada. The atmosphere began to lighten, and by the time we were en route to the border, I was swapping socials with Serena, the two of us planning where we were going to go to college, while Jay and Adam playfully argued over the choice of radio station. It felt like we were on a road trip, just 4 friends hanging out, until Adam's phone rang. I met his frightened gaze. He didn't have a phone. I watched him dump it in a jacuzzi. "Grab the wheel," he told Jay, panicking, rummaging through his backpack. He didn't find his phone. Instead, a small device wrapped in his clothes. Adam held it up, pinched between his fingers, his eyes widening. Fuck. Adam McIntyre, Serena Eastbrook, Jay Wednesday. The flat, robotic drawl sliced through the silence, making me jump. Serena screamed, slamming her hands over her ears. Behind us, 2 black vans swerved into position, blocking the road. By order of the AMOR division, you have been selected for reconstruction following your assessment. Adam's knuckles whitened around the wheel. He slammed the car into reverse, only for a third van to crash into us from behind, jerking the vehicle forward. I was flung forwards, snapped back my belt. "You are surrounded. Exit the vehicle now, or we will extract you by force." "Get out!" Adam's voice cracked into a cry. He was shaking, grabbing his pack, then his gun from the glove compartment, stuffing it in his jeans. "Get out! Now!" He pointed toward a clearing that led into the trees. "Over there," he said. "If we lose them and continue through the trees, we can find another car and keep going north." Adam pulled a crumpled map from his pocket. "We're meeting Noah here." When none of us moved, he twisted to face us, his eyes wild. "Fucking go!" Serena and Jay were the first to run, sneaking out of the back. Ahead of us, armed soldiers were inspecting cars. I crawled out of the passenger seat as Adam cracked open the driver's side. I dropped into a crouch, following his figure as he darted down the road, rolled under a stalling car, and then burst into a sprint. I watched my best friend run for his life, and something snapped inside me, freezing me in place. Twisting around, I saw more soldiers swarming from the black vehicle, scanning for Adam and the others. "Izzy," Adam hissed, gesturing me over. "Come on." I nodded and broke into a run, copying him. I dropped into a crawl, scooted under another car, and threw myself toward the clearing. When I reached him, he grabbed my hand, but before he could pull me forward, I tugged away. And before I could stop myself, before I could swallow the poison rising in my throat, I told him I loved him. That I had always loved him. Adam was perfect, and he was mine. It was fate, just like those stupid commercials. Adam was my fate. He was perfection. He was meant to be with me. Adam's expression softened for a moment. "Izzy, you know I'm..." He swallowed, squeezing his eyes shut. "We're best friends," he said, his voice cracking. "Izzy, you know we are." "You're, confused." I found my voice. "Confused? Well, yeah," he said, his gaze flicking behind me. "Come on, let's go." "I'm not confused," I said. "You don't love me, dude." He surprised me with a laugh. Adam gently grabbed my shoulders, and I almost tipped into his embrace. His eyes found mine, forcing me to look at him, forcing me to truly take all of him in. "Izzy, you love the idea of me." Something sour crept up my throat, and I found myself laughing. Sure, I didn't give him a chance to respond. I stepped back again, off kilter, my head spinning, and the way his eyes suddenly widened, jaw clenching, he knew exactly what I was going to do. He pulled out his father's gun, which had no bullets. Adam had told me that himself. Still, he pointed the gun, finding the perfect trajectory between my eyes, his finger trembling. I held my breath and screamed, He's over here!" I watched his eyes hollow, filling with pain. He staggered back just as gunshots sounded. "Izzy, what the fuck are you?" "He's over here," I repeated, stepping back, my legs threatening to collapse beneath me. "He's here!" I screamed it until my throat was raw, until I was on my knees and he was tackled to the ground, forced onto his stomach, his cries muffled, hands pinned behind him. When he screamed, a boot slammed down on his neck, shoving his face into the dirt. I saw his eyes. I saw his lips twist into a snarl. "You fucking didn't," he kept whispering, choking on laughter that burst into sobs as he was violently dragged to his feet. His eyes didn't even find me. They were too afraid to. You didn't. Adam said it again and again, his voice splitting through my skull. Tell me you didn't, Izzy. Tell me you didn't. I replayed Adam's words in my head as they dragged him away and shoved him into the back of a black van which would take him to his death. When the doors slammed, I staggered back, regaining my breath, regaining my thoughts. What did I just do? What did I do? While part of me forced my body forward to try and save him, the rest of me was paralyzed. Serena and Jay were captured with him. Serena screamed at me, her wails echoing in my skull like ocean waves, fading in and out. But I barely registered her. I could still hear Adam. Tell me you didn't fucking love me. I could still hear his screams, pleading with me, like he was trying to convince himself. Izzy, you didn't love me, right? You didn't fucking love me? His words followed me all the way home, where my mother was waiting. I waited 2 full weeks until I was sure enough time had passed. I drove to the AMOR center, and walking inside, I felt sick to my stomach. I found myself entranced by hundreds, maybe thousands, of desirable partners displayed on giant, human-sized TVs. I stumbled through the women's section first. Serena was displayed with a seductive smirk, wearing a 2-piece bikini, her skin lighter, eyes an unnatural piercing blue. Her breasts were exaggerated, purposely sticking from lingerie. She was a human Barbie doll. Beach babe was what described her. Come and get me, Daddy. Hello, welcome to AMOR. Is there anything I can help you with? The male attendant in front of me, wearing a navy tie, was one of them. He was too sculpted, too smiley. I nodded. I'm looking for a boyfriend, I said. Can I see the new releases? His smile widened. Oh, of course. Are you not interested in our female releases? I didn't have the heart to look at Serena. Her original self still stung my eyes. I'm okay. He led me through automatic doors into another room. It was darker, lit up in a pale white glow. I noticed some of the displays were still black. A few were still being set up. I found him in aisle 3. He towered over the others. Adam, or the thing with my best friend's face, was perfect. His face had been shaved down, his nose sculpted. Adam's original curls were back. His eyes colored a deep, velvety brown which brought out his smile. Enemy to a lover was Adam's selling hook. Why don't you introduce me to your parents? I promise I'll be a good boy. The attendant stood beside me, still grinning. If you're interested in purchasing this one today, I'd advise against it, he said. These boyfriends were only processed a few days ago, so they're still a little... He shrugged. Well, reconstruction can be traumatizing for the brain. I suggest waiting a week for the product to adjust. I'll take him, I said, my eyes glued to my best friend's vacant, soulless stare. His wide, glittering grin. The attendant didn't argue. He led me to the checkout counter. I signed some paperwork, handed over my card, and before I knew what was happening, Adam was being led out to meet me. He was dressed in a white dress shirt and pants. No freckles this time, no flaws. Just pure fucking perfection. I took his hand, and he reacted immediately, the way Adam never had. I could pretend it was our first meeting, love at first sight. His hands cupped my cheeks, his lips breaking into a grin. Hello, he said. His voice was deeper, perfectly fitting his profile. What is your name? I am Unit 13,446. Would you like to give me a different name? Please feel free to name me, and our lifetime bond will begin. Isabel, I said, my voice shuddering. My name is Isabel. Isabel, he repeated with a smile. I like your name. I found myself smiling too, overwhelmed. Your name, I said, tears stinging my eyes. Your name is Jet. Isabel? Jet's voice pulled me back to the present. I didn't realize I was crying. My boyfriend's expression was already frantic. In front of us stood a giant looming glass building. AMOR. Specifically, the help center. I noticed Jet was stiff in his seat. Isabel, he repeated as I gently pulled him from the car. Why are we here? I didn't reply. Striding through the welcome doors, I kept a tight grip on his wrist. At the front desk, a nurse greeted me, her eyes flicking to Jet. I saw the way she looked at him, eyes widening, cheeks blooming red. This is my boyfriend, Jet, I said, snapping her out of it. I think he's cheating. The nurse nodded, quickly slipping back into a professional. That sounds like a fault, she said, typing something into her laptop. Can you tell me his registration number? Jet's eyes widened. Isabel, I don't understand. Shut up, Jet, I said, and he complied, closing his mouth. I focused on the nurse. Unit 1, 3446. She pointed to a room ahead. Take a step in there, she said. It looks like your boyfriend bot is malfunctioning. The doctor was my mom's age, with large eyes and bottle cap glasses. He led Jet to a bed and gently sat him down. I took the seat opposite, watching the doctor take his blood first, then check his heartbeat. He gave a pleased nod. His vitals seemed to be fine, he said. I'll take a look at the brain. The words bubbled in my mouth, poisonous and painful, but they were mine. Can you make him forget about a certain person? I asked, as the nurse hooked him up to a machine. I thought back to Kai. The way he made my boyfriend smile for real, not a plastic smile, not a programmed smile. He smiled the way he did when we were kids, the way he smiled at Jay when they first met. Jet was limp, letting the doctor stick needles into his skin. He squirmed when the doctor's fingers found the back of his head. I only want him to look at me, I whispered. I want you to erase everyone else. No, Jet surprised me with a cry, his eyes widening. No. Stop talking, the doctor scolded, and Jet's mouth clamped shut. He drew back before pulling on gloves. That is not supposed to happen, he hummed. He retrieved a bone saw, dragging spinning blades across Jet's head. When the body was reconstructed, the skull was replaced with an artificial one to hold the brain and allow for modifications when necessary, the doctor explained. His hands were slick with scarlet, red pooling down his arm. I noticed. Jet was gritting his teeth, trembling, gripping the bed, but he wasn't supposed to feel it. The doctor noticed too. He studied my boyfriend's expression and clapped his hands in front of Jet. But Jet didn't blink. What is its name? The doctor asked me. Jet. He shook his head. No, before reconstruction. I swallowed. I don't know. I lied. He sighed, prodding Jet's right eye. This time, he didn't flinch. Boyfriend bots very rarely show emotion toward anyone but their owner, he said. That is, of course, unless the former consciousness has taken over. He turned to me. The organic body may have remembered its past self, and possibly even a past loved one. Kai is a boyfriend bot, I said. He's my friend's, he nodded, slipped on a pair of gloves, and reached deep into Jet's skull. I will do a simple reset, he said. With practiced precision, he extracted a tiny metal chip, snapped it clean in two, and replaced it with a fresh one. Jet's eyes flew open in protest, flashing bright, hypnotizing green. His mouth parted like he was about to scream. Then his eyes rolled back in his head, and his mouth closed shut. I've erased the unit's memories, the doctor said calmly, unhooking Jet from the machine. When my boyfriend fell forward, his body limp and wrong, the doctor caught him, helping him into a sitting position. Your boyfriend bot only has eyes for you, he said. However, I recommend requesting a full reinstall. I've fixed the problem for now, but if the organic consciousness remembers itself, there's nothing I can do but recommend a reset. The doctor helped Jet to his feet. Did you buy him fresh? I nodded. I bought him brand new. The doctor's eyes darkened. It's a common problem. If units aren't given the time to adjust to the reconstructed body, sometimes the organic brain will remember who it was and can reawaken. His smile was too big. But don't worry. Just bring him here for a reset. I felt like I was floating. I lifted Jet to his shaky feet and led him out of the hospital. He stumbled twice, managing to walk on his own, though his legs were shaky. In the car, I caught his hand twitching, his eyes flickering. Slow drips of red pooled from his nose. "Jet," I asked shakily, "who are you in love with?" He didn't respond for a moment. "I love him." He spat through his teeth, his tone twisting. "I fucking love Jay. Adam." I scooted back, my heart in my throat. Adam was still in there. For a second, we both sat still, silent. There were only his strained breaths. Then he slowly raised his fist and slammed it into his temple. I screamed, and he did it again, a river of scarlet now seeping from his nose. A third time, and he was screaming, a raw, painful wail erupting from his mouth. "Izzy." Adam's voice was as broken as it was the day I let him get dragged away and turned into my fantasy. A fantasy who loved me. His half-lidded eyes found mine, glassy and so fucking human. A wave of shame slammed into me. "What the fuck did you do to me?" Thank you for watching Nightmare Proof. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep the nightmares alive. Have a story of your own? Send it in, and you may hear it here next time. Until then, sleep well if you can.